Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of Extra Serving, a restaurant industry podcast, a product of Nation's Restaurant News and Restaurant Hospitality. I'm your host, Holly Petre, here with the latest episode. And now it's time to introduce my two lovely co-hosts for this episode.
My name is Sam Oches, editor-in-chief of Nation's Restaurant News.
And my name is Leigh Anne Zinsmeister, managing editor of Nation's Restaurant News.
We are very patriotic today for no reason.
Nobody who's listening to this as a podcast will understand. Do you want to explain, Holly? Do you want to explain why
we are all wearing red, white, and blue accidentally.
No.
I'm wearing...
You're not wearing
white.
I was about to explain that.
Okay.
I was about to explain that I'm the white, Leigh Anne is the red, and Sam is the blue.
Saying it like that just sounds pretty strange. But yeah, here we are. Totally unintentional, but gave Holly podcast intro fodder. So
there you go. That's why we did it.
You guys are so boring.
Wow. Jeez.
And on that
Coming
note,
in
I'm
hot.
out of here.
I'm gonna use that as a segue somehow, Holly. Oof.
No, I have no segue today. I have no segue into anything. I'm just gonna start out with the news. Look at that.
Wow.
I know, very proper of me.
Professional.
Very professional. It's very unlike me.
Our audience doesn't know what to do with themselves right now.
To be fair, we did talk for 20 minutes before this podcast started recording. So the professionalism has lowered the bar. So we
had to get the crazy out of our system before we hit record. And I think we did our audience a favor in that regard.
100%.
Everyone. So Wendy's has entered the metaverse, which is very exciting. They haven't just entered the metaverse in terms of getting a trademark the same way a lot of other companies have. They have opened a new restaurant. Well, they will open it tomorrow. Today's April 1st. It is not a joke. None of the stuff that we are talking about on this podcast is a joke today, April 1st. I don't believe in April Fool's Day, personally. I think it's fake.
We should probably add that nobody in the media believes in April Fool's Day, because if you're a publicist and you send us an April Fool's joke, you will end up on our list of don't ever do stories with them again, because it's the worst thing you can do to a journalist. And we are all on high alert for your very silly stories on April 1st.
There's also been just no restaurant news at all today. Like this morning, everyone was like, I haven't heard from anyone on my beat today. And it's because people are afraid to announce literally anything lest we decide it's not true.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, so Wendy's is entering metaverse tomorrow. I guess not to be confused with anything happening today. So they announced it on Wednesday, and they will enter the metaverse on Saturday with this new restaurant in the metaverse 2.0. That's going to be a way for people to interact with each other, interact with the brand. It's going to be like it. To me, it sounds almost like a really cool video game, but with real life components. I mean, as somebody who grew up in the 90s, don't you mock that, Sam?
I grew up in the 90s too. Thank you. Jeez. You grew up in the latter half of the 90s.
That's why I was saying, don't you mock that. But like, it reminds me of like, this is going to be a reference for someone who's my age, which I realize is not a lot of our listeners, but it reminds me of like Neopets being in the metaverse. This whole idea of like a virtual restaurant reminds me of Neopets so much.
Is that like Tamagotchi?
No, it was an online website where you went in and there was like it was basically like a virtual world. You just didn't use virtual reality glasses. It was just a website. So it was in like whatever that was called, whatever version of the internet that was called. I guess just
Web 1. We're on Web 3 now. That was Web 1 maybe.
But you just went and there was like different restaurants and you'd buy food with like this virtual money. But you wouldn't actually get the food in real life. But with the metaverse, you're going to be getting food in real life. So that's...
You can, yeah.
Yes, okay. That is the metaverse, yes. But are we talking about Neopets or are we talking about metaverse?
We're talking about Wendy's.
We're talking about Wendy's.
We can talk about the Wendy's verse is what they're calling it.
Wendyverse. So,
which, by the way, we had the CEO on your podcast this week, Sam, as well, just to plug the podcast.
Thank you. Yes, on Takeaway with Sam Oches, I spoke with Todd Penegor, the CEO of Wendy's. Unfortunately, we spoke before the announcement for the Wendyverse, so we did not get into that. So more to come on the Wendyverse stuff, but yes, go listen to that. I mean, look, we've been talking about metaverse for weeks now, months really. And I think everybody recognizes the potential of the metaverse, which is, as you describe, Holly, essentially like a video game, but it is a virtual world that is, you know, as I understand it, the metaverse is one virtual world. It's not just you get in on a video game and, you know, it's just you hanging out there, and it's beyond just being on the internet. I mean, you are immersed in this world. And what I respect about Wendy's move here is that, to your point, Holly, we've been hearing a lot about restaurant companies that are filing for trademarks in the metaverse, because so far the metaverse has been a future thing. Everybody's talking about the metaverse as a thing to come later that you need to be paying attention to now. Wendy's, what they've done is they have made an investment now, which is the biggest investment so far I've seen from any restaurant company, to say, we're going to make our mark here. They've got virtual restaurant. You can play games. You can interact with other customers. You have an immersive Wendy's experience in the metaverse, which I don't think any other restaurant company is really doing now. Now, you know, talking about the potential of metaverse, again, you can get into talking about virtual food halls and, you know, these experiences that go beyond simply walking in a restaurant, ordering food, but you can also order food, have it delivered to you in the real world, of course. And the potential is incredible. And what Wendy's is doing is tapping into that potential. I have my reservations, but I'll let Leigh Anne weigh in first before I get into that.
Yeah, for sure. Just to build on that point, Sam, this is also one of the first times that we've seen representatives from Meta, formerly Facebook, commenting on what Wendy's is doing. And the comments are very positive. You know, the gist of what they're saying at Meta is, this is what we've envisioned for the metaverse. Like, what Wendy's is doing is really building out on our vision. And there's even a quote in this story that you can read on NRN.com about how, you know, there's so much that the metaverse can be, and that Wendy's is really starting to tap into that potential. And I think the fact that, you know, their press release included quotes from Meta executives just goes to show that this is really, they're really doing this in a way that the other big restaurant chains have not yet invested in this space.
Yeah, for Meta as a company, Meta wants to, you know, they want to own the metaverse. I mean, they want to be the access point to the metaverse. And so it's in their best interest to show major retailers how to do that. I mean, that's why this partnership makes sense, that Wendy's and Meta have worked together to do this, to show other restaurants what is possible. And a lot of what we're seeing from restaurant companies right now is just planting flags. It is saying, you know, by filing a trademark, there's virtual real estate essentially to be bought here. And if you don't do it now, you're not going to have a chance to do it, or somebody could own your brand in the metaverse before you do. And so that's what a lot of the action is now. My reservations about all this, at least currently, are, you know, first off, access is extremely limited. I don't know about you guys, but I don't have a virtual headset. Now, I feel like an old fart. I don't really want a virtual headset. Someday, I'm sure I'll have to get a virtual headset because everybody's doing it. And certainly my kids are going to want one. But there's the immersing yourself in the metaverse. You need this virtual headset. I think you can do a version of it online, but probably not as cool. I mean, you're playing The Sims essentially when you do it on the internet. But, you know, that's my other reservation too, is just like, quality wise. And I get that there's still so much that you just kind of have to start, and then you had to iterate, and you got to kind of build this collectively over time. But right now, quality wise, I don't know if you guys have watched any clips of people doing metaverse stuff. They've done a little bit of this. It's really bad technology, right? It looks like clunky, like I'm moving in the metaverse. How cool is this? And we're just so early. So I just question how popular it will be now. But I do respect and understand why it has to happen now in order for it to be cool and something people want to do in the future.
Yeah, I think it's worth stating. So you're right. There is they're calling it a viewer only version online. So you can I guess, watch other people be in the Wendyverse. But they did specifically say that if you're using the viewer only version, you can still access the marketing promos that come along with this. So if you're in the Wendyverse, you can order actual Wendy's food at a discount. There are certain deals and promos, and they're making those things available to viewers as well, which, I mean, for now, that's probably the most Wendy's can hope for, is to, use it as a marketing ploy. for now. But yeah, they're getting in there. And I mean, that's all really, I think anybody could do at this point. So,
I mean, the technology's come a long, long way since. So when I was in college, I don't know, seven years ago, I realized that's not that long ago, but I went to art school. And so I had friends who were dabbling in the virtual reality element. That was a major at my school. And so people were dabbling in virtual reality, and the technology has come so far from what I saw 7 years ago with the virtual headset on to now being able to actually have brands in a metaverse where things are communicating with each other. Like in just 7 years for all of that to have happened, I think that we're going to progress greatly in the next few years to the point where it won't be as clunky. Like it was really clunky back then, in terms of like the way that people move, the way that things look, the way that sometimes things glitched. I mean, there are always going to be glitches when it comes to things like that, but I can only imagine what the technology is going to do now that there's a real focus on it. And now that everybody is looking towards the metaverse as the future.
Sure. Yeah, I think it'll continue to improve and only get better. I mean, in terms of other technology, I mean, the way we have these conversations and record our podcast on Zoom is something I couldn't have imagined 10 years ago. There was video technology and recording technology, but it was nothing like it is today. So I'm sure it's only going to continue to improve and grow into something that we can't fathom right now.
And to that end, I mean, again, to reiterate the point, just because it's clunky or not as cool as it could be yet does not mean you should not be exploring it, because as Wendy's has shown, like, you need to make your presence known now. You need to take ownership of your corner of the metaverse now. And I think this is true of everybody from independents on up to big chains. Now, I couldn't tell you how to go about doing this. I don't know what restaurants need to go do. The trademark is obviously a first place to go, but you should be kicking the tires of metaverse now, because kids today up through Gen Z, this is going to be a very normal experience for them 10 years from now, maybe less. And so if you think your business is going to be around then and you are not already looking at this, you're already behind the curve, because this is just going to be so dominant, much in the ways that the internet has become dominant from, in just the past 20 years.
I could see somebody in the future. This is just me imagining something, but I think that this is one of the futures of what the metaverse theoretically could be, is that somebody could be playing a video game and literally while they're playing a video game, walk into a Wendy's in the metaverse, get a meal delivered to them while they're still playing the game, and be waiting for the meal while the game is still going on and get it delivered while they have their virtual headset on, but the meal comes to them in real life. I mean, I think that could be a future for the metaverse, is that like somebody could be doing something virtually and just, stumble into a Wendy's without ever having to leave their home.
I hope to God that they can see where they're walking if they're walking into a restaurant. We got a lot of social mores to figure out with virtual reality, so that is all to come later.
All right, well, let's talk about something else this week that's not the metaverse. I feel like we talk about the metaverse all the time, but we have to. It's the future of what we're doing. But something else that's the future, or this brand seems to think is the future of fast casual, is Smashburger's new concept. They have a new full service location that they just opened. And they called it the future of fast casual when they spoke with Joanna Fantozzi. And so it's really interesting that a fast casual concept is actually moving in the opposite direction, because we've seen quite the opposite during the pandemic. We've seen full service models move to fast casual. We haven't really seen the opposite. So I'm interested in what you guys think about this transition and what it means for the future of fast casual.
Yeah, I think it's part of a bigger trend of like the lines starting to blur between segments generally. Fast casual chains are elevating their offerings, whether it's the menu or the experience in the restaurant. Casual dining restaurants are, opening drive-throughs and things like that. And things are kind of moving in both directions. I think this is a move that makes a lot of sense for Smashburger. You know, as a burger concept, it feels easy for them to transition into that like sports bar vibe, which feels like what they're going for. They've got they've got a full service bar with like flat screen TVs playing sports all the time. So yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense. Apparently the next full service, so the first full service Smashburger is in Denver. The next one is opening here in New York City near Madison Square Garden. So that's fully like sports bar vibes that they're going for. And I think that makes sense for this concept. Holly, are you really excited about this?
I mean, like, it's the perfect location for them to open up a full service Smashburger is right by Madison Square Garden. Like, you couldn't have picked a better location.
And Holly just wants to go film some video there and get some video of the experience and maybe a free drink or two while she's at it.
But I believe that there was supposed to be a transition about Cleveland sports somewhere.
Yeah, so
if we want this to derail, we can get into
I mean, if you want us to get off track, I think we're fully capable. Yes, so the bars have flat screen TVs behind them playing. I mean, the press release says, you know, playing the latest sports events and news at all times. We asked, as we always do, for Smashburger to send us a photo of this bar in action. And the photo that we got was taken in the moment, which we know because of the Cleveland Browns news that is displayed. So Sam and I immediately both went, "Ooh, this is just now."
Yeah, if you wanna learn how to get a publication, if you're a publicist and you want to know how to get your publication some fresh photos, give them one where something's on TV that just happened, which in this case was Deshaun Watson's press conference for the Cleveland Browns, which not but 2 or 3 hours later we had this image of on our website. And I don't know how much further I should go down the Deshaun Watson rabbit hole because there's lots of thoughts on that. But anywho,
that's a different podcast.
That's a different podcast. Sports and bars and Smashburger. Look, booze in fast casual is not new. In that way before the pandemic, fast casuals were looking at booze as being something to really increase their experience. Holly, you and I were just in Hop Dottie in Austin, had a full bar. A lot of brands have planted their flag in this, but I think one thing I'd point out with Smashburger is here's a brand that, last year or 2 years ago, I forget, was introducing a new prototype with drive-through cubby locker system, which was actually more going the other direction, was all about convenience and speed. And what I think is an interesting point to make here is that there's no one right model. And to Leigh Anne's point, the lines are blurring, that, anymore you can have a small footprint, no dining room, drive-through locker kind of element, pop it into a smaller footprint in a suburb. Then you can drop a full bar, full service experience near Madison Square Garden. You can make these decisions based on your real estate and on the audience, the demographic nearby. And you shouldn't necessarily box yourself into one place. But yeah, I mean, for all intents and purposes, they seem to be, with this prototype, going away from convenience. But I think there's something can be said, especially as you see so many casual dining brands doing very well right now. People still want an experience. They want to go out and enjoy themselves and have an experience. And so you can meet them there. And if you're a brand that can also meet them on the other side of things with a convenience, then all the better. So it's just interesting to see. And I'll be curious to see if more brands decide to kind of have the diversity of models like Smashburger seems to be going for.
I'm somebody who loves an experience. I went the other night to my restaurant downstairs below where I live. Just sat at the bar by myself to get a meal. Made friends with the woman next to me. We wound up talking for like an hour and a half. Like, you don't get that if you're just at a fast casual. And I love a fast casual for a quick meal, but there's something about just going to a restaurant and having an experience and just like getting the hospitality and just being able to experience people again. And after being trapped for so long, I just feel like a lot of us are like me and we just want to, like, we're itching to get out and just be around humans.
There's no one size fits all. I mean, people have different experiences according to different moods. You could call it a need state. What's my need state? At lunch, my need state might be a quick, takeout order. At happy hour, it might be, I want that experience, breakfast, whatever. So if customers have different need states throughout the day, week, month, year, then if you can meet as many of those need states as possible, then you can truly win, because you are meeting them there, no matter what that mood might be that they're in.
Ready for this transition?
Oh boy.
You were just talking about winning. Now we could talk about someone losing.
Oof.
Been worse. Could have been a lot worse. Considering the story we're about to talk about, that's tame. I'll allow
it. So we're going to talk about this viral Applebee's email. This was our most popular story of the week. It was a viral email that sparked a lot of backlash. It was about lowering wages in light of gas prices going up. It was from a local manager. So it wasn't a big company-wide email. It was not, it did not come from corporate, but it sparked a lot of social media outrage. What do you guys think?
May this first and foremost be a lesson that you do not say things you don't want to. I had a manager once tell me, imagine that every email you say on a billboard. If you don't want what you're saying in an email to be on a billboard someday, don't say it. And this is an example of that, which is the theory this manager floated was that with higher gas prices, there would be an increase in job applications. With the increase in job applications, they thought maybe we can lower wages, because in their head, they thought, oh, great, we get more leverage back. There's more demand for work and we can give, so then we can pay less. And that was a foolish theory, and unfortunately sparked all of this backlash.
Yeah, my first thought was exactly the same. I mean, I said this on Slack when we were just talking about whether we should cover it, which is like, this is a lesson that like, you don't have to say every thought out loud, and you certainly don't have to type it up and email it to someone in your company. So setting aside the fact that like the theory is wrong and you should treat your workers well, like full stop, not just because there's a labor crunch and you're desperate for workers, but you should just treat people well. Even if you feel differently, you keep it to yourself. Keep it to yourself. That's really short and sweet. I guess
if we want to also take a step back and look at this from the restaurant perspective, in just terms of why that was a bad thing to say, I mean, look, yes, I mean, everybody is pinched right now. You want to pay lower wages because of rising costs and inflation. And so we get it. But, again, everything's kind of a leverage thing right now, which is the workers have more leverage right now because unemployment is low, and because, companies need workers more than workers need jobs. And so, naturally, that is going to be tough on restaurants especially. Restaurants suffer the most from something like that. But yeah, your solution should not be trying to figure out how to game the system, particularly when it comes to wages. That's a pretty sensitive thing now. We've talked about this on the podcast before. You should pay responsible wages. End of story. You shouldn't figure out how to cheat your customers out of, or your employees out of wages just to save you a penny. So that's why this also, from a restaurant perspective, is just like, don't figure out how you can pull one over on your employees. Figure out how to work with them, pay them responsibly and work with them. And by the way, make it a good place to work. And then you wouldn't have to be having conversations around, ooh, here's an easy win for us to lower wages.
Yeah, especially in the context of, really, his point was, it's great that gas prices are going up, which opens up like a whole other can of worms. But yeah.
It was super bizarre. It was just so bizarre. And it got leaked. And you know what? You just need to always realize that stuff like this can get leaked, because you never know who's on the other end, or who's reading it, or who has access to your email. A lot of our emails are probably looked at by people we don't even know can look at them or will look at them. And so it's just always being cautious of what you put in writing. You should also always say nice things to people as well. You should be nice in person as well. But you shouldn't be.
On that note, be nice. Be nice to people.
Be nice. Yeah. Be nice over email. Be nice in person. Just, think about how you'd want to be treated. Like, would you want your wages to be lowered, sir, manager, because the gas prices are up? Probably not. So, just try to think the way that you'd want to be treated. It's like a real kindergarten level lesson that I feel a lot of people need to be retaught.
You tell them, Holly.
Thank you very much. And on that note, I will get to this week's interview, which is Thomas de Geest. He is the founder of Waffles and Dingies. It is a New York City-based chain that offers Belgian waffles. They are delicious. They have a lot of non-traditional locations. It's very interesting, but they are just starting to franchise. So Thomas and I talk about their expansion into franchising and how they're going outside of New York City. It's a very good interview. We talk about being German. So there's that fun little bit. I was in Brussels not too long ago, right before the pandemic. I was in Brussels. So I had traditional Belgian waffles, but I've also had waffles and dingies. So we kind of compare the two as well. So it's an interesting conversation, I think.
Great. Sam looks like he's really excited about this one.
I thought you were implying Brussels was in Germany. I thought I was going to have to do another geography lesson with you, but you connected it. So
she's better at European geography than she is at the United States.
Yes, so yeah. Okay. Good job.
No. Well, thank you guys for joining me on this episode of the podcast, and everybody stay tuned for the interview.